Hey guys, hope everyone's having a great day or night whenever you're watching this. I just wanted to welcome you guys to episode 16 of the Angry Advocate podcast. My name is Ed. I'm the guitar player of Death's Hand and owner of Advocate Media.
Hi everyone, welcome back. This is Ash. I'm the owner of Angry Ginger Photography. Episode 16 is something special to me. I have known our guests for a solid 20 years, going back to being on the bus together. So, Russell Hanusik, from the drummer of Halo Bite, welcome to the show.
What's up, y'all? Thanks for having
Hi.
me.
Not a problem.
Yeah, very, very long time in the making, I guess, when you put it into perspective like that. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. I haven't seen Ash in quite some time. Well, that's not totally true. You came to that show that we played at Ralph's that one time, but I think previous until that, I feel like I haven't seen you in like at least a decade or more. So
Easily.
yeah,
Exactly. Yeah.
easily.
Yep. Yeah, those reunions are usually always fun.
Yeah, always fun, and it's always at like the most inopportune time for it's like
Yeah.
obviously I'd love to have a stop and chat and be able to catch up, but then it's like everybody's on my ass about loading things out, or I have to go wrangle up our bass player because he's drinking too many Guinnesses at the bar or something. But
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I remember I just like pointed at you from stage and it was just like that exact like conversation. It's like, yep,
yeah,
I know. I'll see you soon. Dope to see
yeah,
you.
and
Like,
here we are. Yeah,
Yeah.
what do you think of Ralph's?
I love Ralph's. Yeah, the vibe is there is great. I wish we had something similar to that in Albany. Um, it's just like cool to have like two completely separate entities in the same building where you could like go downstairs and order a grilled cheese or like a hot dog and eat it in like a diner car sort of situation and have
Exactly.
nothing to do with the show. Or you could go like watch. I think when we were there playing, I don't know if it was that show or a different show. It was like I'm a huge wrestling fan, and they were like streaming the Royal Rumble that night, and I was like elated about that. And then like the upstairs is so cool, and it's like, yeah, I should really start personally even like making the trip out there to start going to see more shows. Like I know like Angel Dust and Jive Bomb are coming through at the end of this month, and I know some of us are trying to like go make it out to that one, so we'll see. But yeah, always cool stuff going on there. It's just like an interesting sort of mecca in Worcester there.
Exactly. In the most random spot.
Yeah, it is very random. Yeah.
Yeah.
Ed, have you played or been to Ralph's?
No, I haven't. Yeah, which is crazy. I was supposed to I actually had bought tickets to one of my favorite bands of all time, Silent Drive. Played a show there. Uh Pretty recently, and I ended up not being able to make it down to it. So I was kind of upset that I hadn't made it down to that, which is like that's kind of their stomping ground. So the lead singer in Silent Drive is the guitar player in Bane, I want to say.
Oh, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Huh.
So yeah, Silent Drive came out with one record in like 2006. It is my favorite record of all time. Like
Almost 20 years later.
yeah,
Yeah,
I
I'll make a note of that one. Yeah.
yeah, I absolutely love it.
I'll
It's
learn
my
from this.
favorite. And yeah, but I would love to play there at some point. I think we'd had something lined up and we ended up not being able to do it. I think like we were like, yeah, we can do it, and then like 2 days into saying we couldn't. So we just had to back out. But I would love to play there. I've heard a lot of really really good things about that place. So
Yeah.
that'd be fun.
How far are you from Worcester if you're 2.5 hours from Manchester?
I don't know actually.
Well, you're up in Maine, right?
Yeah. I'm like an hour north of Portland. So
North, right? So
yeah. It's like not even the center of Maine. It's still southern Maine I live in, but I think Worcester's like, I want to say like 2 hours. I could be wrong.
That's nothing.
I'll say that's
nothing.
That's
nothing.
I will be surprised. I'm gonna
Nope,
say
it's three. It's three. It's three.
There we go.
3 is where three when you're traveling like 3 hours for like a one-off show, it does become kind of a sort of labor of love where you really have to sort of weigh the options of whether you really want to do it or not. Yeah. And I mean, obviously we always want to do it, but sometimes, well, I was like, I forgive me if I'm wrong, but I remember like listening to one of the other episodes that you did with the homie from Clock Out, and he was talking about I think you were talking about just like obviously you want to do as much like touring and things like that as you can, but like obviously other people in your band have like so much other crap going on in their life with kids and stuff,
Yeah.
so it's like 3 hours is a long time when you factor in
Yeah.
children and other things like that, let alone just
Yeah.
like your 9 to 5s. So I totally get it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It gets crazy. I mean, I like the way you put it. It kind of is a labor of love. Like it's one of those things where you really have to like, it's like if the show is really going to be worth it, then it's worth the drive. You know what I mean? But then like there's other times where it's like, is it really worth that drive? You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, absolutely.
like,
Yeah, I mean, like you toe the line of, and I don't even mean it in like an insulting way, where it's like
yeah,
you get offered like a show that's like on a weeknight or something like that, and it's like that's already hard enough to do sometimes. Like
yeah,
even if it is with a great band, or if it's like with like it's like a locals only type thing. It's like
yeah,
you have to kind of pick and choose your battles, and it's like obviously like I mean everybody offends anybody all the time sometimes, so it's like impossible to sort of dance around that,
yeah.
um but yeah, there's just like so many factors just like into like a single show, let alone
Oh,
like when you're like doing logistically a run with yourselves or just like another band.
yeah. And I mean, I feel like if we were to get like a show at the Palladium, like we would go and do that, right? Like if we were to get even a show at Ralph's, depending on who was playing, like I'd probably do that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, it would, and I don't want that to sound like an arrogant thing. It's just, it would have to be the right circumstance for us to do it. You know what I mean? And I feel like I think that's most bands really. Like, you know what I mean? It's like if it's a bunch of bands where you're like, I don't think this is going to draw a lot. We have to drive a very long way. Like there's certain factors you kind of, have to kind of bring in and go like, okay, this show checks all the boxes. Cool. We'll do it. This show is
Mhm.
like, this show is not checking boxes. Like
Yeah,
we
yeah.
can't do it,
Respectfully, it is not checking
Exactly.
boxes. Yeah,
Respectfully.
yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. I agreed. That's kind of how we have started to look at it. And I think I said this literally it was the last podcast or the one before that, but I had said like I'm the type of person who I'll just play with whoever. I don't really care. Now, if it was like 3 hours every time, that might be different. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? But like
Yeah,
for
yeah,
in Maine, if someone in Maine's like, hey, you want to play a show? I'm like, yeah, I'm down. Like I don't, you know what I mean? Like I don't care. Like I'll play it.
Depending on the drive. That
But
that I can see because like your show on Thursday, Billy, like they're obviously making a drive, but like the way that Billy and Halo Bite like lines up, in my opinion, like it's a no-brainer like for them to do that because it's gonna mesh. Like that's it. It's gonna go off. It's gonna go
yeah. I
just
freaking love
go
those
well.
guys, and it's also like one of those things too, where it's like they have been nothing but nice to us and like supportive of like all of our endeavors, like musically and just like you name it, and it's just like really nice to be able to like reciprocate that back to like have them in town with us, because it's like I'm sure like Ed, the same thing where it's like you travel so far, like if you're trying to play shows in places and you like become friends with people that you meet along the
yeah,
way, and it's like all you ever
yeah,
want to do is like reciprocate those same things back to them. But then like when you live in such areas like Billy from Boston, like there's arguably more places to play there than there is in Albany, New York,
yeah,
and it's like Albany's like a C market or whatever. I don't know the terminology, what it really is,
yeah,
but
yeah,
it's like we don't get a lot of bands of like a certain size that come through here that locals can hop on, or like if we're like promoting or booking our own show, it's like we're pulling from places, and it's like really cool that they're coming from Boston to play this show. And then Death to Fire, also a band that has like helped us out so many times and are also some of the nicest people, um, also on that bill on Thursday. So I'm really excited about that.
yeah,
But yeah, it's just cool to like bring their world to us and sort of expose the people that are around us in like our small community here in
yeah,
Albany to like the cooler shit that's like literally just 2 hours away in a car, you
yeah.
know?
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
I agree. Well, I mean, it's the same thing. I mean, like we'll be announcing this again at the end of the podcast, even though we've already mentioned it in multiple podcasts. But um, not supposed to be saying it, but I did. We have a show coming up this weekend, and like Rose Lane invited us to like to come down and play. And it was just like, it's one of those things where we became close with them fairly quickly. Even when we first played with them, like they showed us a bunch of love when the first time we played. And the first time I saw them play and the rest of Death's Hand saw them play, we were just like, holy shit, like they like they went off at that show.
Yeah.
And it was like, so it was just it's been really cool. And that's like one of my favorite parts about playing. Like it's like, yeah, I get to go do what I love and play on stage and just play music and play, you know, tight with a bunch of my best friends. That's awesome. But it's also really cool to just share time with other bands, meet other people, and become good friends with other people. And then, like you said, like reciprocate shows, or like, you know, every time we've played down in New Hampshire or Mass, we've always had someone come up and be like, hey, like, oh my God, I didn't know, I like hadn't heard you. Like, I want to put you on for a show. And it's like, okay, cool. And then we like get invited to play here, and then we get invited to play here. And it's like, that's just awesome. Like, that's the best feeling, is going down there. And not only like, because you get those people who will come up on stage and they'll be like, "Oh man, great set, guy, great set, great set." And it's like, do they really mean it, or do they, you know what I mean? Is it
Yeah, of
just
course.
like,
Yeah, I mean, it's like
you know,
it's a meme format where it's like, "Hey,
yeah,
bro, good
yeah,
set. Can I borrow your snare or whatever?"
yeah,
You
yeah,
know,
yeah,
like,
yeah, 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 yeah,
yeah,
exactly. And it's like that's cool, but it's like it's even better when they say that and then they're like, "Yo, we got a show like in a month and a half. You want to come play?" It's like, okay, so
yeah.
they actually,
It makes it all worth it for you in the
yeah,
long run. You know.
yeah.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, cool. Okay. So they actually like us, or think we're, you know, we play well enough to, you know,
Yeah.
be a part of their
Yeah.
show, which is cool. And so that's always a really fun part of it. And I feel like this podcast has really kind of like been, I almost want to call it the final product of all of that. Like, it's like we get to, kind of like you said, like you didn't get to catch up with Ash that much, right? And it's like, so now you kind of do, and
Yeah.
it's outside of it, right? But
Yeah.
we're, I don't know.
And
That's
you're getting to like interview a lot of people and talk to people that are like doing a lot of creative ventures in areas in the Northeast where we live that, you know, a lot of people don't know, because we're like the boots on the ground type people, where, you know,
for
if you
sure.
hit a certain level of notoriety and people like kind of are interacting with you more online, and it's like easier to keep up with just like who you are and what certain bands are about, versus, you know, like same thing, like you stumble upon a band that you actually really like and you make that networking thing in person, because like the in-person aspect of it is like what's the most important thing. It's like all we have
Yeah.
is kind of like each other, so it's like nice when that works out, because it's like
Yeah.
hard to have conversations on the internet, even though it's like how the world works.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And especially with playing shows, like you do have the opportunity to talk a little bit, but not as much as you'd like. You
Yeah.
know, like
I mean, some
everyone's,
people, yeah, I mean, there's definitely cases where like we play with bands, or like even I'm probably guilty of it too, but just like I love to yap.
yeah.
And there'll be times where it's like me or like some of my other bandmates will be like, you know, we have like a 3 hour drive ahead of us that night to head to wherever we're going. And like, it's like, okay, it's like go time, get all the crap in the van, load everything out, and like, let's go. And I'm like, oh, but I have to talk to so and so
Yeah.
about so and so, and we were
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
talking
Yeah.
about wrestling and all of this great stuff, and it's like things that nobody else cares about but me. And I'm like, okay, I gotta lock in. I gotta lock in.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I got
Yeah.
a white knuckle. I got to drink my Red Bull. And I got to drive.
Yep.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah. It's always a fun balance. I don't know. I'll admit to that though too. Like I feel like there are some shows where I definitely catch myself talking and not paying attention to when we're supposed to go on or whatever. And then there's other
Yeah,
shows
it
where I'm
happens.
like,
It happens.
I'm literally stuck with my gear. Like I'm like,
This is
I'm no one can touch my stuff. Like, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, so yeah, there's definitely times where that happens. But
I'm so good about that, and I will yell at other people. Like I'm that person that like if I see people outside, I'm like, no, like we're all going in. Like next person is
yeah,
about to be on.
yeah,
But I do understand that because
yeah,
I like to talk, but it's also the when so much is going on, you don't get to have the interaction, and that's exactly why we have the podcast.
yeah, yeah, for sure. For sure.
Mm.
That's awesome. Yeah, so let's jump into a video. You sent us a video. You want to give a little backstory of the, you know, where this is, when this took place, any of that information?
Yeah. It's just from we did like a all locals free matinee show at the Fuse Box, which is formerly known as, like, for if any of the old, I don't want to say old heads, but because that's not really true, but it used to be called the QE2. It's like one of the more historic venues in Albany that's sort of like very true to the hardcore scene around here. But love that spot, and we got a chance to do a free matinee probably almost about the same time last year. I think it was like January 14th or something like that. I could be wrong, don't quote me on that, but yeah, it was cool. So we had the headlining slot, which was really nice. We were played with our friends in Bad Impressions, Cold Kiss, and Spirit Killer, all great Albany bands. And then I forget what part of the clip. I think it's probably the last song that we played.
Yeah.
I just kind of clipped that, but yeah, it was really cool because somebody like set up and took all the audio from it and had like multicam set up. So super grateful to have something like from a memento from how fun that show was.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Cool. Let's throw this on, take a quick listen, and we'll go from there. So here we go.
I need everyone to put this on. Go to shows, you motherfuckers. Go to shows.
Didn't realize I was still in there.
Yep.
That's funny. Yeah.
What's hilarious is I was gonna try to stop it before that, but because I thought it was 11:13 or 1:13, but I was wrong. So that totally
Okay,
is
no,
up there.
shout out Allie. Allie, my girlfriend. She wanted to know if I was going to drive her over to our friend's house to watch the Eagles game.
That's awesome.
Perfect.
To which I think I responded, "We're driving separate because I had somewhere to be after, and I didn't want to rush them."
That's awesome. That's awesome. But yeah, no, this show looks like it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was a lot of
Amazing
fun.
thing.
There's another matinee that's happening next month here in Albany at the Fuse Box again with some other really good bands, and there's like a Wink Wink mystery headliner again.
Nice.
So looking forward to that.
That's cool. That's cool. Yeah, and I actually paid attention more to your bandmates too. Like I love that Jackson guitar, that like orange, like black crackle.
That's Jeremy's pride and joy. I forget we were on the road somewhere. I think it was maybe we were on the way to Buffalo, and we're like him and I are like we're fiends for Facebook Marketplace. I don't know about y'all, but
Yep.
Yeah, I love like I go nonverbal when I'm looking at anything on Marketplace, but I'm always like hunting for gear, even if it's like just stuff that I don't want or guitars or whatever have you. But like he found a listing for that one on there, and we were like, oh, let's like go check it out. And then he checked it out at the guy's house, and he was like, yeah, I'm buying this. But like he's done a lot of work on it since then, with like some friends of ours that do shop work, and it he loves that thing. Looks really cool under like a black light too.
Oh, I'm sure. I'm the exact same way. Like if you can't see any of my guitar, well, you can see one right there.
Yeah.
But I have like 12 other ones right here.
Too many more.
Yeah,
many more.
Yeah. A lot of them are Facebook Marketplace finds.
It's the way to do it, man.
Yeah, it's awesome. Same thing. So I don't know if you know this, Russell, but I'm actually a drummer. That's my main instrument.
I do remember you saying that.
Cool. Yeah. So we'll be going into some more drumming questions, and especially if you have Facebook Marketplace stuff, I'll be picking your brain. But yeah, this video just looks like a lot of fun. You guys are super tight. Yeah, the energy is great. You guys are super tight. Like it just looks like it's a lot of fun. Like I would love to play this venue at some point. It would be
Heck yeah.
so much fun. So
And do
much
you
fun.
know who shot this video? Because like you said, the fact that it's multiple like angles and everything, the audio is really good.
Yeah, I mean, I could pull it up quick. I feel stupid that I didn't put the credit in there, but I want to say that his name is, I know his first name is Ben, and on Instagram, like, he's a really good photographer locally. He does like a lot of like shots for any of the concerts that are like any of the venues around here. I'm pretty sure it's like at 518 Ben or Ben 518. I don't know what his like media company's called. But yeah, just like also another like really good dude.
I'll say it's
that just
great,
like is like a great asset to the community for things like this, or just like the photography in general.
Yeah, I was gonna say it looks
There's
really
definitely
good.
more hands involved than just him though, so I apologize for not
like
knowing.
for the entire team. Yeah, no.
Yeah, like the
great
engineer who mixed it and who engineered it and all that stuff. Yeah. But killer job.
Well, I was gonna say too, if at some point, if you want to send that along when we post this, we can always put that in the YouTube.
Yeah, sure, absolutely.
You know, in the YouTube bio or something like that. You know what I mean, or whatever, in like the drop down menu that goes to this video. We can always put that in, so that'd be cool. But yeah, it looks awesome. I mean, it's
a lot of fun.
Really great, really great. Cool, I love it. Yeah, we're gonna jump into some questions, I think now.
Heck yeah, that's so funny. I can't believe I forgot to double check if that screen cap thing made it into the video. She's gonna love that.
Yeah.
For the podcast.
we love the random hilarious things that happen. It's awesome. Like, I'll take all of it.
Makes it
great.
better.
Yeah, for sure.
Awesome. So first question. I know that you've been playing drums for a very long time. How has that affected who you are as a drummer today, and how has it changed in your just about 20 years of drumming?
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think of everything pretty much like, I mean, I can't say that like I'm some like, I mean, I also like hate talking about myself in certain circumstances. So but yeah, I don't know. I mean, in terms of like changing who I am, like in a personal way, I think it's like I love playing music, and especially like being a drummer. I feel like now in my life is like such an important asset to just like actually being a musician, like where I live, because we all learn. I mean, it's also like another thing where it's like the world like, put down your camera, like we need more drummers or something like that, you know. But obviously, I'm very happy that you do photography. I'm not. It's not a jab. You're also a very good musician too.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just like one of those things that it's like the instrument that I feel the most connected to. And it's like I play like a lot of guitar because it's like conducive to do that in my apartment and things like that. But yeah, just like playing drums, it's just like, it's kind of like I could shut my brain down for a little bit and just like sort of be like methodic about doing sort of like this like artistic venture that I'm on, just like either by myself or like with other people around me, or like having the chance to like be good enough to have other people ask me to like fill in or like start other bands with them. And it's just like, it sort of has like helped me become friends with a lot of people in a lot of ways. Yeah.
I would definitely agree. I feel like I mean, I definitely would not be the person I am without playing music in general. Not necessarily drumming, because like you said, like you play drums, you play guitar. But like I definitely wouldn't be the person I am today. I wouldn't have met the people I've met. I wouldn't be, you know, anywhere near I am right now. You know, like with I guess good and bad, both, right? Like, I mean, it's not
for sure. Yeah. Like when I graduated like high school, I wanted to go to music school, and I auditioned at a few colleges and I didn't get in, and it was like kind of disheartening at the time. And then I wound up going to SUNY Purchase for a little bit, doing like arts management. And then as I like sat there in the program, like I met some really cool people along the way, none of which who I really have like a lot of like communication and ties with now. But I remember being there for like a year and a half, and I was like, man, like I really hate it here. I think I need to transfer. And I was like, I'll give the music school thing like one more shot. And then auditioned to a couple other places. And then I got into the College of St. Rose, which is now closed and defunct here in Albany. And well, they cut all their arts programs, and I'm sure there's a lot of other things that went wrong, clearly.
Yeah.
But yeah, I went to music school there, and it's like I think that sole move, because I was like chasing this dream of being like either like a concert percussionist or just like a rock drummer that could like do recording engineering, um, like carried me to sort of fall into the situation that I'm in now with my life, where it's like my bandmate Jeremy, I met in school there and wasn't really friends with him at all. And then I was friends with the other people that were in his bands. And then they asked me to fill in this one time. And then we kind of like had this like weird unspoken bond for a long time. And then he hit me up out of the blue one day and asked me to like, if I wanted to start working on another project. And that's kind of like how the whole Halo Bite thing unfolded. And then it just like
cool.
snowballed from there.
That's cool. Yeah, I always love to hear musicians' stories on how bands become bands. It's just so cool. Like, because it just like I mean, it's pretty much similar to how like Death's Hand like kind of came to be. Was like our other guitar player Kyle. I had talked to him once about starting something like 10 years ago, and like we knew each other and we kind of talked here and there, but like had never met. And then I had not played music for like 10 years. I think I had the band that I was in previously decided to let me go, and it literally like it tore me apart. And so I was like, cool, I'm done with music. Like I'm done. Like
Yeah,
it was
listed
just,
all your stuff on Facebook Marketplace.
oh, I sold everything. I sold
and
all
then
of it,
bought it
man.
all back.
And yeah, exactly. I didn't sell my drum kit because I was endorsed by a drum company, and I had that kit custom made for myself. So I didn't sell my kit. But
Who was it?
Anchor Drums out of North Carolina. So I'll send you a picture of that kit.
Yeah, point. Definitely do.
Yeah. So the guy from the drummer from Silent Planet played for Anchor Drums.
Oh damn. They're not a band anymore, are they? Right? Or they kind of are. I feel like they're a band that I follow. Like when I used Facebook was like, this band's really cool because I used to be like so into like all of that sort of realm of music.
Yeah.
And like I still follow them on Facebook. So like when I'm like scrolling through like the garbage heap that's like my feed sometimes, like it'll be like, I feel like anytime I ever see something about that band, it's like some like long post with like text written on it that's about like
it could be,
we love our fans and we're so sorry that this person can no longer play with us, but we will go on.
Yeah.
And I mean all that respect. I'm sure there's probably like things that are going on that is like that could be terrible for some of them, and I don't wish that upon anybody, but it's like that's how I recognize that band.
Yeah, I don't know if they are. I don't really keep up with them as much as I used to. I did when we were on the same when we shared being endorsed by the same drum company. I'd talked to their drummer pretty steadily, and we'd talked about a couple things here and there and gear and stuff like that. But after that, I kind of not necessarily lost interest, just didn't really follow them that much. But But yeah, I sold everything, like, and then my guitar, I reached out to my guitar player Kyle at some point and said something, and started a band with him and some other people. Then they kind of split up with us, and then I added our current drummer and lead singer from a band that I had previously played in. And it's just, I love those. It's like just an amalgamation of like, oh, this person used to be in this band with me, or I knew this person, and they
the lore of it all.
Yeah. Like it's so cool to just see stuff like
you hear about other people, or just like even like the friends that I know who are like maybe like 4 or 5 years older than me, that like are some of my best friends, and just like the stories that they could tell from just being in like all these weird iterations of bands that they've done like throughout their formative years, and just like knowing them in certain time frames of all that, and not really being involved in playing music at all for a long time. And just like trying to fathom what all that would have been like, and sometimes good, sometimes bad, but
exactly. It can get crazy.
I'm sure.
For sure.
Sometimes you need time to grow and mature.
For sure. But
I did look up. It says Silent Planet is still active. Album came out in 2023. I randomly saw them because I also have had like that mindset, because everyone I talk to has that mindset on them. and I was at some show at the Palladium that had some ridiculous 7 bands on it, and Silent Planet was somewhere like smack in the middle, so I had no like I was seeing them, like it had to have happened.
Yeah.
They were pretty good, like of
Yeah.
everything I've heard, but
yeah,
still going strong on their 5th studio album.
yeah.
Good for them.
They're cool. It's never pulled me in to the point where I've been like, oh, I have to follow this band. It's been like,
Yeah,
oh, okay, they do.
I'm a fan.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
do some cool, weird sounding stuff, and they do what they do well, and they're tight, but it's just not my thing. Not my thing. But
And that's okay.
exactly. Absolutely. Cool. Next question. And this is a good one for me. I'm glad I have this one. What are your go-to cymbals, sticks, and drum heads for drumming? What do you typically tend to use?
So the longest time, like I never really was like a gear guy until like we really started like playing more. Like I had a like a Mapex like armory kit armory kit, and like I used to play in this like instrumental like prog metal band, and it had like the 2 rack toms like off of the cymbal mounts with the 2 floor toms. It was just like an egregious amount of hardware for
too much
a child to have. And I still have it, and it's all broken. There's parts of it that are like literally on the floor behind me here in my apartment, and then it's like sitting in the rest of it's like sitting in a practice space somewhere. And like recently on Facebook Marketplace, we'll call back here. I hope this doesn't ruin one of your future questions if it had to do with Marketplace, but I've been like chasing a Ludwig Vistalite kit for a long time. Just because like those toms sound huge. And I bought one from this delightful gentleman named David out in Merrimack, New Hampshire. So my girlfriend and I drove out there to go pick it up like probably about like a year and a half ago, and it was like the best
15
decision
minutes
I've
for
ever
me.
made.
That's wild.
Yeah, well, so there we go. Yeah, well, now I know I got the plug because like we're friends on the internet, me and this guy. So he's always posting cool stuff, and I'm always like, well, I'm not really gonna make that drive out there, but I'll just maybe I'll text Ash and then she can pick it up for me.
Yeah, exactly right.
My boyfriend now has a Mercedes Sprinter van because he's also in bands. Like that's what he wants to use like for his touring vehicle. But there's still like not any seats or anything. So we're currently in the phase of what's on Facebook Marketplace and what.
Heck yeah. Well, let me know. I think we know somebody that could probably help you out with putting some seats in there if they need to be like welded in or something like that. But I assume this might be like if it's a Mercedes van, it might be. You might just be able to put the seat in with all of that stuff.
Yeah.
We'll talk.
Very nice fit. Yeah, we'll definitely talk.
But
definitely need to some and you'll be very happy about this.
Cool. Yeah. But yeah, to answer the question, heads. Like I started using like the Evans like coated head. I think they're like E3s or something like that. I got put onto them recently when we did our record that we just put out this year or in 2024. We did it at God City out in Salem, Massachusetts, which is like Kurt Ballou's studio from Converge, and we did it with his other engineer Zach Weeks that plays in this band Cersei, who's a really great band if you've never heard of them before. But he was like, yeah, you definitely like are gonna probably like want to use these or like for touring or X, Y, and Z. So they just sound huge. And like sticks, I go through sticks like crazy because I hit really hard and like fundamentally like I never took lessons as a drummer. So like I never really like learned like the true proper way of like actually like like sitting or like angling things. So I just hit super hard. So I use like Vader like 5As usually, and I find them to be pretty durable. And there's like I'm like in a state now where I'm like trying to like relearn certain things where I'm like, like when you're sitting on a stool and your legs shouldn't be 90 degrees, like they should be more like 70 something, but like I'm like, man, like I'm also like a big guy. Like I'm like a 260 pound guy who's like 6'1". And like obviously, there's a big boys club when it comes to playing instruments like that. And like I watched like last night I went to a show in Catskill, and like watching the drummer there like sitting so high on a stool and his like leg is like basically he might as well be standing up, and I'm just like, how do people do that? And I'm just like, well, I should try to maybe like really try to figure it out because I'm like maybe my arms would hurt less or something when I'm done playing. But yeah, anyway, not to tangent, but cymbals are just like I'm pretty loyal to Zildjian, like anything like A series stuff, I feel like they're like usually pretty bright and like have a really nice like timbre to them, and they're like durable enough. And obviously, like being a musician or like in any sort of like art form, like I'm sure Ash, you know what like photography is like. If you want a piece of equipment, it's going to cost you an arm and a leg always, and it's just like what you need to do to kind of, you know, level up per se like your art. And it's like obviously if I had an endless budget of stuff, like I would love to buy like K's and like sort of like a dark washy symbol to play around with, but like at the end of the
Yeah.
day, it's like I want something that sounds like really good if I was to like record something or in a live setting, whether it's in like a basement that we're playing in on tour, or like if we're playing a bigger room here in Albany, like they'll still cut and sound really nice, and I could beat the piss out of them, and I can
Yeah.
break it in a couple months and I'll like kind of be okay with it, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that's funny. I'm a Vader guy for sure.
Yeah, I don't know
110%.
what made
That's
me choose that brand. It's just like I feel like they were like a small company for such a long time.
yeah.
I mean, this also could be totally made up, but I feel like I never like knew. But then like when I was like so into like gent and like prog stuff, I feel like somebody like Matt Gartzka or whatever like used
Yeah.
Vaders or something, and I was like,
Yep.
oh, I have to use those because he uses them.
Yeah. Yeah, I actually I know the one of the plants that Vader was in was actually I believe was in Maine. I actually started my own drumstick company a while back. I haven't pursued it any further, which I may do at some point, but I know the people in the plant that Vader was made in. Vic Firth was also made in, and there's another plant that was also in that same place. So I have sticks that are made there, and they're far superior. Like I love Vader sticks. They've been phenomenal, and every time I want to play something, I've had less broken sticks with the Vader sticks that I've used.
Yeah,
Vic Firth are good, but
it's a
I've
close second. I would. It's a
yeah,
close second for me because I feel like I
yeah,
I I did this thing for the longest time where I'm like, well, I hit so hard that I should use like a lighter stick, because then there's times where I'm like, oh, like, you know, like I'm hitting hard, but I'm not like doing as much damage to this and that. But then as I realized, I'm just like, well, this is like kind of really actually not working out at all. And I was like using
yeah,
like Vic Firth like 7As, and like they were just
yeah,
getting chewed through so fast. Like I'd buy a
yeah,
brick every 2 weeks.
yeah,
Not
yeah.
conducive. Not
No,
conducive. No.
not good.
To
And
playing because they're breaking, and then you look like an idiot up there because unless
yeah,
you have a really
You're
good recovery,
trying
which
to, yeah.
yeah, most of the time it's like I feel like I you know, you freak out for that 1 second and you're like, keep it moving. And then all your
yeah.
bandmates are looking at you like the weight of the world is on your shoulders, dog. Like, don't mess
What
it
are you
up.
doing? Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
just like when
Oh
Yeah,
you don't
God.
normally play that here, and I'm just like, Jesus.
I'm
yeah,
doing this one-handed.
Yeah,
yeah,
like you
exactly.
don't understand what it's like.
You have no idea. Yeah, yeah. Those and Zildjians are definitely my go-to. I have most of mine are Ks and K customs.
Yeah, great
My
symbols.
they're my favorite. I love them. I have that's my original set. My dad had bought me a couple when I was a kid. Though I didn't sell my kit. I didn't sell my kit and my K customs. But I sold everything. I had multiple kits, multiple symbols, all that stuff. But there was a set that I had that my dad had bought me a couple, and I had saved up a couple. Um, saved up enough money to buy a couple, and I was like, I can't sell these. Like they're super expensive. Like even if I could,
Yeah,
like I don't want to
yeah.
sell them and have to rebuy them. So
Yeah,
I
and the
kept
trajectory of
them.
like the pricing of everything too. It's like you're
Is
going to sell it now for $300, and then you're like, oh, I
yeah.
messed up. I really think I would like that symbol again. And then you go on Reverb or something, and it's
It's
like another
way more.
$150,
Yeah.
and it's like listed in fair, and you click on the listing for it, and the thing's like beat to crap. And I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm lowballing this guy for sure.
Yeah. No.
For sure,
Yeah.
I'm lowballing this guy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I'm
That's
like,
awesome.
yeah, and now like also like the same thing where it's like using like the beaters like actually at practice, because it's like always like, oh well, I want it to sound good like while we're working on like writing stuff, but then trying to be like mindful that, you know, like I'm practicing like multiple times a week, like do like running the sets and then like going down there and working on new stuff, and then like I play with a couple other bands and like going through the motions with all that stuff. And I'm like, yeah, your equipment's going to deteriorate a lot faster. So it's like,
Oh, for
you
sure.
know, you can deal with it sounding a little crappier during practice and like save the
Yeah.
nice stuff. Cause it's like, I have like I love the bigger the better for me sometimes for cymbal wise. Like I have like a 23-inch like Sweet Ride. That's like
sick.
my main thing that I just basically beat to hell.
Yeah.
And then also like if like on the right hand side, it's like 19-inch fast 19-inch medium thin crash like on the left, and then I had like a 20-inch same thing like dark crash for a while, and then that got like really cracked, and like that's like a practice cymbal. But then it's like I also bought like the 21-inch Sweet Ride too, like not too long ago, and that was the one that I was using mainly. And then it got like like a hairline crack in it, and then I sort of beveled it out with like I don't know what you call that, like a Dremel tool. And then it just like got worse and worse and worse.
Yeah.
And ironically, I kind of use that actually as a crash cymbal now, which is mad funny because it's just like so gargantuan.
Yeah.
But it works. It works. And then once that one really goes, and I'll buy something else, probably another 20 something.
I'm the same. I'm the same way. I have all my cymbals are either crash rides or ride cymbals. That's all I play. I don't play and they're all huge. Like I think my ride is like 22. Yeah, I have like a 22-inch ride, 19-inch crash, 21-inch crash, and I think another 19-inch crash. I like two 19s. Yeah, two 19s, a
nothing
21,
lower than 18. I feel like
nope. I can't.
Like when I'm like really desperate, or if I'm like laying in bed and like I can be subjected to buying like an impulse buy, and I see like somebody's like got a listing on Reverb for like a fast crash, like and it's like beautifully sparkling, brand new, like mildly used, and I'm like, oh, that looks so pretty, but I'm like, it's literally like 16 inches, and like I could probably bend it in half because it's so flimsy. I'm like, let alone what that's gonna sound like when I'm like just absolutely beating it.
Yeah.
But I mean, everybody's different. I'm sure it works for drummers that like aren't so aggressive, or like obviously different styles of music. But like hardcore punk and things like that, I'm like, I need it to be like really sturdy.
Yeah, I need it to be sturdy, and I need it to have a really big sound. I like having like a really washy type sound, and I like being able to control that, because I think with like for me with the bigger cymbals, it's easier to get like, I don't want to say more like musical out of like, I just feel like they're more musical. Like you can get some of the higher pitch sounds if you want, if you like, play up closer to the bell. But if you really want to hit it and you want to have that sturdy part, because they're bigger, and you can control the wash too. You know what I mean? Like with how you hit it, you can control that wash from being, really loud, or like, more like, more minimal and not as much sustain. I can't even say that.
Yeah, for real. Yeah, it's like also like playing with like a washy pattern on your hand too. It's like I remember when I was like, I used to be really into that band Periphery. And like their drummer Matt Halpern, I was like, this guy is the GOAT. And I remember like watching videos of him like explaining like his like rig rundown, and like talking about like his style of playing, but also like striking cymbals in a certain way where it's like, because you're striking it and it's also moving, and it's like trying to go with it. And like he does this like thing where it's like, he's like smacking a paintbrush around. And it's like I find myself like literally every single time we play, it's like if I'm ever doing something that's like out to like the right hand side, I always notice myself like doing that like weird arm flail, and I have that moment in my head where I'm like, oh, I'm doing the thing. Back to pull it back.
I'm the same way, especially like I am really into using ghost notes. That's just my thing. I'm more
left hand. I'm crazy.
Yeah, I'm more of a groove drummer. So like in all the bands I've ever played with, like there are a lot of people who are like, can you play this? And I'm like, yeah, I'll play it, or I'll play what was on the record before I joined the band or whatever. And I'd play something, and they're like, man, that sounds like a lot more groovy than normal. And I was like, oh, that's probably because I'm doing a bunch of ghost notes in between like the 2 and the like 2 and 4. You know what I mean? Like, so it's like they hear that, and it's just like that's always been my thing. And that tends to happen. I tend to have that like more paintbrush type effect with my crash hand when I'm doing a lot more ghost note stuff.
Oh yeah, of course.
You know what I mean? Like you're like, it's the more intricate you get, like this kind of gets a little more like washy. I don't know. I don't want to say sloppy, but like you feel like you're in such good time because you're hitting so many notes and you're keeping everything in time, that like this hand just kind of like, I can let this go a little bit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
You're like creating your own sort of like click track that's got like 16th notes, or
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it tends to be a lot of fun, but that's super cool. And I didn't. Is this in here? No, it's not. Ludwig kit.
Yeah, it's like a Vista Light reissue.
Okay.
It's like a 2010, I think.
Yeah.
It's like the clear shells.
Yeah.
Luckily, like no real scuffs or scratches.
Yeah.
And it's like I'm sort of in this, like we're doing a run with a band from Arizona in May, and we have like a Sprinter van that we're using and sort of like backlining a lot of the stuff for it. So I'm really excited to take it out on the road. And then it's like I bought hard cases for it because I'm like, man, I really don't want to ruin this thing. Otherwise, it's like, but
yeah.
I mean, it's the reality of the whole thing. You know, you gotta pay to play.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Absolutely. That's funny.
So next question, my favorite question to ask, and this is cool because it's also now including Albany and New York. Who are some of your favorite local bands?
Favorite local bands. In Albany, I would say, like I feel like it's like always my same two answers where it's like because I know the people in the band so well. There's a band called Sunblock and a band called Prize. Like all of those people are like some of my best friends. And it's like a pretty weird end of the spectrum of like what kind of music it is. It's like Albany's always been pretty known for sort of like being that sort of like Northeast, like upstate, like not like Rust Belt kind of thing, because like that's like if you get more towards like, you know, you're going towards like Watertown or places like that. But just like, you know, like slam bands and like more of your like traditional hardcore stuff versus like I feel like now with the bands that are sort of popping up around here, there's like a lot of different stuff happening that's like in the sort of hardcore adjacent realm. Where it's like I look at bands like Sunblock and it's like they kind of have like the Angel Dust thing going on, but also sort of like all those guys like love Oasis, and it's sort of like very transparent when you listen to like that music where it's like also pop music that they're making, but you know, you could mosh to it, you know, it's like it's music for the rockers basically, you know. And then Prize, where it's like if you like bands like the Jesus Lizard, it's very much right up that alley. And it's like super hard, super melodic, and like just so yeah, it's sick. Yeah, definitely should check those bands out. And there's also another band, Cinnamon, that's really great. Flat Wounds is another band if you like are into like the grungier side of hardcore, where it's like the Lane Stanley of Alice in Chains type thing mixed in with like I don't like the Jerry Cantrell solo records. It's really cool. And then I would say like my favorite band from Worcester, though, I know like neither of you live in Worcester, but we were just talking about Worcester, is that like I don't know if you ever heard of that band High Command.
No.
Oh, dude, High Command rules. They're just like a thrash band. I don't mean to say just like a thrash band. They are a thrash band. So sick. Stage presence is wild. I remember seeing them at a show. It was like the benefit show for the dude from Fuming Mouth when he was in the hospital for a long time. I think it was at the Middle East. I'm pretty sure it was at the Middle East. It was like a 2-day fest. And it was like the first Fleshwater show and like a handful of bands that I didn't know at the time, and then like High Command, like I didn't know who High Command was at the time, and like they came out and like vocalist is like brandishing like a giant broadsword and has like a mic stand that's like welded chain link, and it's sick. Yeah, it's sick. And they play at Ralph's pretty frequently too. I mean, like they tour Europe and all that stuff, but yeah, just wild.
Huh. I'll have to check that out. That sounds awesome.
That's wild.
That sounds awesome.
Okay,
Nice.
I've seen them on billets before. This is okay.
Yeah, the whole aesthetic for that band is just incredible.
Yeah,
it's like if you listen to like Gate Creeper, like do you like Gate Creeper? Yeah, it's very much like same aesthetic as Gate Creeper with like obviously like less sludgy intensity to it, but it's like yeah.
That's
and
cool.
if you like Gate Creeper and you like Lord of the Rings, this could be a very much so a band for you.
Perfect combination.
Yeah, I'll definitely.
Or if you don't like Lord of the Rings, because I don't like Lord of the Rings, but I like Gate Creeper, so it also still works if it's like you like one of those things.
I mean, I love both, so.
Yeah, they played a show.
No shade.
Secret Work and Search Warrant. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, they did?
Yeah, Geno's back in November
Oh,
with
shit.
Cruel Hand. That's
Oh, that
wild.
sucks that I missed that. Okay. Yeah, that's literally in my backyard.
Whoops.
Yep. That
Gotta
sucks.
wait for those shows after they happen.
That's okay. Maybe they'll come up again and I'll be able to catch them. That sounds
Yeah.
fun. Cool. Yeah, so next question, mine. What is your favorite thing about being a part of the Albany local scene?
I guess like I can't say like from I'm very like lucky and to be like somebody who is very sort of like outgoing in the way that like I just love to talk to people. Obviously that's pretty clear because I could talk for a long time. I'm sure a lot of time has already passed now. But yeah, just being like social and sort of just like plugged in. I mean, I'm sure that's how it is in a lot of other places where you have like certain subcultures of like people like like punks or the artsy people, and like there's a lot of, it's not like clicky in a lot of ways either, where it's like I feel like we can go to like a lot of mixed bill shows, or just like people are usually pretty much down for the cause for a lot of things, which I feel like is very fortunate to have in such a small area like this, where it's like Albany is like, yeah, that's the capital of New York, but there really isn't much going on here in terms of like nightlife and things like that. And we're lucky to have the places that we do. Like Empire Live is like probably one of the bigger music venues that opened up in the last couple of years that's here, because it used to be Upstate Concert Hall up in Clifton Park. I don't know if you've ever heard of it, but it's like bigger bands would go there, but it's like it's like I'm driving 40 minutes out of the city to go catch it, and it's like that's the Albany show versus like having it where like now I can roll out of my my house and walk a couple blocks down, and I can actually go see like bands like Mannequin Pussy or like Gate Creeper came through, or like the Acacia Strain and things like that. And it's just like cool to have the avenues like that, and then also like Albany's a big college town in certain aspects too, where we have like SUNY Albany and when St. Rose was there, and just like sort of like the house show scenario that's kind of here. I know Jay, our vocalist in our band, they've lived in Albany for quite some time, and they ran a house venue called Bud's Basement, and they've had like an insane sort of resume of people that have come through over the years, or like bands like Prince Daddy and the Hyena are from Albany, and like they played their Basement amongst a bunch of other ones, and have now kind of grown into that other sort of echelon of being like a crazy touring act that goes all over the world. And yeah, I don't know, it's hard to really nail down specifically like what it is. I guess it's just more so like the blanket answer probably for most people would be like, oh, it's like a sense of community. But for me, it really does feel like that sometimes, where it's like like I'm almost 30, but I can go to a show that's like an 18 and up show and like actually have like conversation with people that are like almost like a decade younger than me about music and like things that are interesting. And it's like I feel so lucky to have that, because I'm sure like it doesn't exist in certain places, and just like people who are younger, like starting bands or like actually being involved in the scene and like going to shows, and like, oh, like this band's playing that night, like like I can't make it, but like other people are still there to show up, and it's like like nobody ever really feels like left out in a lot of ways, which is nice. At least that's the way I perceive it. Like I'm sure there's different opinions on it all, but it's just like cool to all be hopefully working towards like one common interest, which is like putting Albany like on the map in terms of like we're never going to probably turn it around to be like a an A market, like big bands aren't always going to come through, but it's like a nice thing to have where it'll be like we do this all the time, where we'll see a band announce a tour and they'll have like the off date between like Boston and Montreal, and we're just like get on the email, and like hit them up, be like we should really come here, it could be great, blah, 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 blah. And sometimes it works out and sometimes it doesn't, but it's just like nice to have like that bridge, because like we're so like geographically located somewhere where it's like you could get on a train and go 2 hours to the city, you could drive 2.5 hours to Boston, like you could drive 3 hours or however long it takes to get to Montreal. And it's like super fortunate to be in like this weird spot, even though it gets passed over sometimes. But
yeah.
No, I think about that a lot, like especially like where we grew up. Like when I'm going to shows, all ages shows, I'm seeing like 16-year-olds that are seeing all of these shows. Like we didn't have that. Like
Yeah.
if you were able to get closer, like I think about freaking Tyler Bruns all the time, like the amount of shows that he got himself to, like being about like where we are. Like if you didn't do the things like he was doing, like you wouldn't see the shows because we didn't have that then.
Yeah, shout out Tyler Bruns, good guy,
Shout out
good guy,
Tyler.
really good bass player, an asset to the Hudson Valley hardcore scene for sure. But yeah, I mean, it's the same thing. It's like where I feel like I it's like so simple for me to be like, oh wow, I live here in like a like a bigger city comparative to like where Ash and I grew up, where it's like we're closer to New York City, and like but we live in such like a rural place where there isn't anything like that happening. Like if I wanted to go to a show, I'm driving like an hour or like 45 minutes into Poughkeepsie, and like going to a show at like My Place Pizza, and like going to a high school where there's like our graduating class is like 102 kids or something like that, and just like there wasn't a ton of like bands where we were from, like there was like some that made it out, or which is pretty crazy to think about. But yeah, it's like it wasn't really like a thing where it was like in our high school like people doing like house shows and stuff, so I wasn't really exposed to that stuff until like I kind of like came to school here in Albany, and I was like already like in my like I'm 21 and I could drink, and that always made it way more fun. But
Yeah.
Just different, especially like out. I only went to the last Warp Tour, and the amount of people out here that have like worked every single year got to like have all these opportunities and such. Like it's wild.
Yeah.
And funny enough, the last Warp Tour, I'm walking, I turn my head, Pros and Icons is on, and I turn my head and here's Tyler O'Leary on stage just playing. So back to small, which is someone we went to high school with, which is all just small world opportunities. But
yeah, I mean it's the same thing with me. Like where I'm from, I'm in a small town called Bridgeton. It's like an hour from Portland, like I said. So it's like most of the times when we want to go see shows, I'm either driving to Portland, which like I mean there's a lot of like large bands that play in Portland. So I mean that's like a pretty good and easy way to be able to see those bands. I mean Gate Creeper came and played Geno's, you know what I mean? So it's like they played there. And there's a lot of, I would say a lot of bigger venues, but there's mainly more bigger venues in Portland and a lot less smaller venues for like bands like our size to play, which is why we end up playing, bars or restaurants or whatever, or, house shows or, anything like that. That's typically what we're able to play. But yeah, to go see shows, I'm either going to Portland or I'm driving to Boston,
Yeah.
That's typically, kind of, if I want to see bigger bands, that's what has to happen,
Yeah, we're kind of in the same sort of thing here, where it's like, I mean, don't get me wrong, there's plenty of bands that come through here that I love, and I'm extremely grateful that came to Albany. But it's like, yeah, like I'd taking the train to the city to go see like a band that I love to see, or like driving to Boston or whatever, or like it like blows my mind that like that band Fleshwater is playing with the Mars Volta and the Deftones, which are like two of my favorite bands of all time. And it's like, man, I would love, like, I'm gonna go to that show. But I mean, like that's not a comparison to be like that show should have been in Albany, because God, absolutely not. That show should never come to Albany. God no. But just being like, yeah, like that makes sense, and it's and sometimes it's fun because it adds a whole sort of like layer to an adventure to go see art that you like.
Yeah, for sure.
New places.
Yeah, absolutely.
So continuing on with driving for like favorite shows, but what is your favorite show that you've ever played with Halo Light?
We got to play, it'd be probably like a local one for sure. And then I guess I probably have like two, like maybe like one in town, one that was out of town. But that band Drug Church, if you're familiar with them at all. Yeah, so most of those guys, if not all of them, I believe, are like Albany locals. I think most of them probably live in LA now. But like they cut their teeth here and they all grew up here basically while they were making that kind of music. And they had a tour with Prince Daddy and the Hyena that we got an opening slot on at like the big room at Empire Live down here in Albany, and that was just like a pretty wild thought because it was like still pretty early on into sort of the venture of what Halo Bite is, because it was like I would say we were probably not even a band for a year, or maybe we were a little over, which is just like wild because it's like here's bands that like I listen to like every day, and we're getting an opportunity because like they're nice enough to like give to like local people like working it out, because it's like they love Albany and like giving us a chance to like actually play like a big room and things like that. And it's like I don't think I'll ever forget that. And just like it's also like I get nervous before we play for sure every single time, and it's like doesn't help that you're on a huge stage and you're just like looking out at a bunch of faces that you can't see, and you're like on this drum riser and you're like sharing like a bunch of like really expensive nice gear with like the touring band, or like the drummer for that band Anxious was on that bill, and I was like, damn, this is like wild. Like I never thought I would be doing this. So that's probably like my favorite like local show we've ever played. And we've had some pretty cool out of town ones and been pretty fortunate with that. I guess, yeah, I don't know. Maybe off the rip, I don't know if I have like a favorite one that we've played necessarily like out of town. I think most of the runs that we've done have always been like great. I love playing in Baltimore. There's this venue called the Undercroft that we've gotten to play a few times, and like all the shows there have always been like really good and just like super fun. But outside of that, probably we played in Akron at Cling Thing. That would probably be like maybe like my favorite show that we played out of town. Just because like we met some like really really nice people out of that whole situation. There's a band from Akron or Cleveland. They're from Cleveland, sorry. And it was also Cling Thing is not in Akron. I don't think so. I think it's in Cleveland. I could be wrong, but this band called Chain Rule. You should listen to them. They're really sick. They have a demo out that came out I think a year ago or a little bit more than that. But yeah, that band just rules, and they're like some of the nicest people to us still. So yeah.
Nice. That's awesome. Yeah, I think like most of the shows that we've played, we haven't really played a whole lot out of state right now currently, but a lot of the shows that we've played, and we still have yet to kind of have like a bigger, be able to play a bigger venue in the areas that we want to play in.
Mm-hmm.
At least with this band. But I don't know. There's a lot of places, a lot of bigger places that I dream and hope of playing, but at the same time, like I definitely like playing a lot of the local places that we normally have and we normally play, or just some of the smaller venues that are in New Hampshire and in Mass and just in general that we've played have always been a blast, and we've always had a really good time, especially with like being able to spend time with friends and stuff like that. I'm hoping we can play the Palladium at some point. That would be a lot of fun, and I'd really like to be able to play a bigger venue in Portland at some point. I've played one with one of my older bands, but with this band, this is one of my favorite bands that I've been in, so I'm really hoping to kind of push that and be able to play some bigger venues. Those are, I don't know.
Yeah, it's all about it's like chasing the common goal of like it's
Yeah.
not so much about like the growth of like your band all the time. It's like the personal aspect of like going to a place that you go to see shows, and it's like it was like very formative for you in that sense.
Yeah.
And then you get to sort of like live vicariously through it by like actually doing it.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like kind of like a weird surreal moment where it's like
Yeah.
like growing up, and it'd be like the Chance was probably like the biggest venue that was close to us, and like my high school bands like played there like in the big room, not the Loft as well, but like that was kind of weird. And it's like obviously then I didn't really have the mindset that I do now about the way I feel about music and like making music with my friends, because it's way different and it means a lot more to me now than it did then. And
Yeah.
but just like having the chance to do things like that on the big stage where it's like the Palladium, like in Worcester, like I've seen tons of shows there, like in the downstairs, and I've actually never seen any shows that are in the upstairs. But I think we're coming through there, I think next month. I think I probably wasn't supposed to say that, but I don't know. Yeah,
whatever, that's fine.
Either way, it's happening. I'm pretty sure.
Amazing.
Nice. That's cool. Yeah, next question. Who are some of your biggest influences as a drummer, and also, I guess, for your band too? Like both, kind of like a tag team question.
Yeah, drummers would be like I'm wearing it right now, but Deftones are like probably like one of my favorite bands, not because it's just like really sexy music, but um just like the intensity that they all have, and just like the finesse. And it's like, I know people rag on them all the time, but whatever, that's their own opinion. But like from a drum standpoint, I think like Abe Cunningham is probably like one of my favorite drummers ever, dude. Like he hits so hard, he's so technical. Also, like what you were saying with like ghost notes, like dude is all
Yeah.
over the place with that left hand.
Yeah.
It really blows my freaking mind. And he's like so locked in on like all these grooves. Like you listen to like things from like Adrenaline to like Diamond Eyes, or like it just like he grew so much. And it just, yeah, I don't know, it just blows my mind how good that guy is. And then and I think that really like set me on a path to like play drums the way I do now. um and then I feel like probably like growing up, my dad was like super into Frank Zappa, and that definitely like fell into my life a lot, because like that's like the weird shit that I would be listening to on the bus. Like I would be listening to like Frank Zappa on the way to school, and like I'm like, yeah, this is what kids my age listen to, right? Like going into
Yeah.
sixth grade, and like
Yeah.
I had no idea what the lyrics were about at the time, because like I was just like a chubby little fat kid wearing shorts in the winter waiting for the bus. But like,
Yeah.
Wait for my mom.
yeah, waiting for your mom. Yeah, Ashley. Yeah, Ashley's mom was our bus driver. So
That's
shout
funny.
out Claudia. Shout out
That's
Claudia.
awesome.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
a real legend. And we would have to take the bus down like and also they lived on like probably like the worst bus road known to man, on
It's
Ridge
like
Road.
single lane dirt road, cliff on one
Yeah, like
side, like
you
my
like
best.
blind corners, you could barely get past another car, and it's like they're taking a damn bus down this thing, dude, and like the wheels are kind of coming off. But Claudia held it down, man. I was never concerned, when your mom was driving.
That's awesome.
But yeah, getting back to like the Frank Zappa thing, is like he had such a prolific catalog of drummers that played with him throughout the years, whether it be like Vinnie Colaiuta, or like for me it was like
Yeah.
always Terry Bozzio or Chad Wackerman. Probably mostly Bozzio, because I was just like, as a kid watching this guy play, if I'm watching videos on YouTube, or just like also from like a visual standpoint of like seeing how many drums this guy has around him, and like I'm like, whoa, that's so cool. Like maybe someday I'll have something like that. And then now here I am, I'm 29, and I'm like, man, I don't want anything else aside from a rack tom and a floor tom, and like three cymbals, man. I was like, if you're doing more than that, it's like, I gotta be playing like technical deathcore or whatever. I'm just like, holy crap. Like imagine having to set all that up if you didn't have a tech. But yeah, so those would be my probably like my two pretty solid answers. Or like Brian St. Pierre from Hum was also one of my favorite drummers too. Like super sad that like he passed, and I'll never get to see Hum, because it's like one of my favorite bands ever. And just like also for like a rock band that really like bridged the gap between, I feel like, what like grungy and heavy and hardcore could all be at once, with like,
for sure.
They were just geniuses.
And
like John, go ahead. John Theodore also, who played like with the Mars Volta too. Like those first 3 Mars Volta records were like so formative for me, where just like that, like D-Loused was so crazy. I remember like hearing the intro song, and then like it just like the record just like snowballs to be like such a crazy like adventure into like groove for me. And I was like, it blew my mind when I heard that record for the first time. And then I forget what the one is that's after that, but then I think the record, like the last record that he was on, was like Amputecture. I'm probably pronouncing that wrong, but like that record is so amazing too, and there's like so much cool drum work on it. But then for like Halo Bite stuff, I feel like when Jeremy and I first got together and we started working on material for it, and we were both like writing a lot of the songs. Like Gougeway is a band like originally from Florida, and they're kind of like all over the place now. I know like Christina and some of them all live out in Portland, Oregon. And they're just like one of my favorite bands. Also, I keep saying favorite band. It's just like every band is like a favorite band of mine. It's like Primus, my favorite band. Alice in Chains, my favorite band. But it's like I feel that all the time, always about things, and it's just like it's cool to find stuff that you really love, and like I latch onto it and I like goof about it, and it's so good. But like for like a prototype as a band, I was like, this is like the kind of like aggressive hardcore music that like I really like, where it has like, you know, and it just like her vocals are so harsh and beautiful, and it like made me feel something that I hadn't felt like ever listening to stuff. And just like every person that's in the band is a shredder, like Tommy Cantwell, who is the drummer for Gouge Away and also plays drums in this band called Axis, which is crazy, which I don't know if you've ever heard of that band, but I think you'd like it, because I know like if you're into like the deathcore kind of stuff and like really technical stuff, it's not so much like deathcore, but like if you like bands like Botch and things like that, it's like sporadic, like Dillinger Escape Plan kind of stuff.
That's cool.
And then he also plays drums in that band Angel Dust too a lot of the time. But yeah, Gouge Away was like a big thing for me to want to like pursue the Halo Bite venture. And it's like, I think in a lot of the songwriting, I've definitely used a lot of, you know, influence from the art that they've created. Yeah, I'm just like, I'm always so stoked to see that band.
That's cool. Yeah, it's actually really interesting that you said Terry Bozzio and Chad Wackerman. I went to in Portland, there was a what are they called?
Convention.
Yeah, pretty much. That like it was
or like a clinic, a drum clinic.
Yeah, it was a clinic. Thank you. Yeah, it was Terry Bozzio, Chad Wackerman, and Marco Meineman.
Damn, dude, that's I got so sick. Yeah, dude, I've never seen any of those guys in the flesh. Like I remember when my dad would take us to go see like the Zappa Plays Zappa thing. Like anytime they would come through, and I couldn't. Joe something was like the drummer that was like always playing or whatever. Like he had no notoriety to me. I mean, he was incredible, but I don't remember his name. But
yeah, it was cool. They had Terry's kit all the way in the back, and then they had Marco's kit and Chad's kit in the front. And so like each of them played, and then I got to go and sit at Terry's kit. That was insane. That was the most insane shit. I have pictures.
I bet, yeah. I would almost be claustrophobic, I feel like.
Dude, it was insane. Like, so I'm pretty sure in that closet right there, I have pictures from me going to that. Actually, I know exactly where they are. They're right up there.
So but sick,
yeah, so like I remember my mom had got me tickets for like Christmas. This was like a long time ago. And she was like, yeah, like you can go with your dad, blah, blah. I was like, okay, cool. That's awesome. And so like, I ended up buying like one of those little Kodak disposable cameras that you like turn.
Yeah.
So like, I remember buying one of those on the way there. I'm like, I have to have pictures. I need to take pictures. So I literally like bought one of those and like, just like got up, like ran out front, like was taking pictures and stuff of everything. Like, and I have all of them.
Dang, that's so cool.
Yeah. It's actually, it's crazy because, I mean, all of the people that you named are not typical people that I hear that drummers are
that's
influenced
what I was
by.
thinking.
So
like I also like didn't grow, like I mean there's like plenty of drummers like in hardcore music that I think are like, you know, insanely talented and like goated, as they would say, but like I didn't grow up like a hardcore kid at all, and I can't deny that, and like I would never pretend to be like, you know, like I grew up with like so much hate and you know, like a lust for, you know, like to belong to something. And like I think those are very important aspects of what hardcore is, and sort of about like unity and community and things like that, and a way to get like aggression out in like a different format. And like those are all great things, and like I've always loved like really aggressive music, but it's like I've kind of like fallen into this where I am now, and I'm like super stoked on that, because it's like I again, like going back, it's like meeting all the people that I've met now. It's like hardcore music has really bridged that sort of gap for me, for like where I am in my life, and I'm thankful for that now, versus like it didn't really happen for me when I was like younger or any of that, because like, you know, like I feel like I went through like the phase of like liking like Avenged Sevenfold and Disturbed, and then being like, okay, well, like what's different than that now that I'm getting older? And I'm like, oh, well, like Gent is really popular, and like I'm really into like rhythms and stuff like that, and like I would like listen to like Animals as Leaders and Chon and things like that. And then eventually I was like, oh, well, like the rhythmic aspect of things is really cool, and I'm not really so into like the heaviness of it anymore. Like I want to try something new, and then like getting like really into like jazz or things like the Mars Volta or whatever. And like I mean, like the Mars Volta is a band that I've known for like a long time, but
Yeah.
like actually like sitting down with the catalog and like going through it, and then just like this sort of like trickle down of like everything. It's just like understanding like where everything kind of like comes from, and
Yeah.
it's sort of enlightening me.
Well, it's cool, and especially like a lot of those older names that you said too. Like you, you know, like you said, like I can go through and name some deathcore bands and some hardcore bands, and like their drummers are awesome, right? But
Oh
like
yeah,
you're like
absolutely.
they're
Yeah,
like right, they're like they're incredible, they're super good, they're this, they're that, whatever. But like it's the names like Terry Bozzio, Chad Wackerman, freaking, you know what I mean? Like those, like the bigger, like older names to me that like those are the ones who really, not saying that there aren't like some goated like hardcore drummers or deathcore drummers, I'm not saying that, but a lot of that like you know a lot of that lineage started back a little bit further. So it's like it's cool to be able to see that, because there are a lot of people who are like, well, I think I don't know, such and such. This person from this band is the best. This person from this band is the best. But like they might be really talented and they might be really good, but they also learned everything that they know now from people who have done something maybe not as fast, but like definitely as talented like previously to what they did. Do you know what I mean?
yeah, it's like the equivalent of like doing blast beats is like doing like crazy like 4-bar runs in like a Zappa song where like he's
Right.
hitting like all of the freaking like rototimes, like
Right.
cowbell, back to tom, back to this, back to that, back to that, back to that, back to that. And
Right.
it's like some crazy elongated measure that I couldn't even fathom in my head. And then it's
Yeah.
like, okay, and here we are, we're all back in on it, and we're hitting the verse, and I'm just like, man, like that's insane. And
Yeah.
it's like I couldn't hold a
Exactly.
can, like like I couldn't do anything that guy does. But then it's like I
Yeah.
can go see a band like Rivers of Nile or something like that, and it's like I couldn't do anything that guy's doing
Right.
on stage,
Right.
And it's
Right.
like
Right.
I'm like, to me, yeah, I'm like I don't know the name, like whatever. It's like I'm not trying to take away that like there's like what you just said. Like, there's like there's so many better musicians than like all of us always. And it's like
Correct.
so cool to be humbled sometimes, where it's like half the bands
Yeah.
that we play with, dude, like I'm like up there and I'm like watching and just like watching these people do this shit, and I'm like, couldn't be
Oh,
me.
it's
Couldn't
it's
be me.
it's it's
Would
it's
love it to be me, but it couldn't be me.
yeah.
I really don't think
It's
I'm capable of doing that. I could practice as much as I want, but I think it's like I found my niche about like what I'm good at, and I'm gonna practice that. And like there's always room for growth. And like I love like watching like video lessons and like really trying to break down songs. And it's like
yeah.
that's like the cathartic experience for me versus like like if somebody asked me like if I wanted to start like a grindcore project, I would say no, because I literally don't think I could do that.
Right. It's the same thing with me. Like if you listen to any of the Death Hand stuff, like
Yeah, I
like
did. I listened to a bunch of that stuff
yeah,
earlier today.
it's
Yeah.
it's 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 very simple.
Technical.
No,
I
it's
think it's kind
simple.
of technical.
Really? Like I don't. I'm not a very technical drummer. Like or a drummer or like guitar player. Like there's some technical parts in it. Yes. And they're in there to not make it sound as simple.
Mm.
However,
I feel like, but that's a dynamic that I feel like when we have to talk about the things that we do, where we're like, oh, it's just like it's simple, because it's like it's simple to us because like we sit there and we write it,
I could
versus like
okay, I could say
if I had
I
to
could
sit down and like learn some of the guitar parts for you, it's like I play a lot of guitar and I think I'm like a pretty decent guitar player and
yeah.
whatnot. I mean, it's like if I had to fill in on guitar for like a even like a band that I know all the songs for, I think I would still probably mess it up.
Yeah. Well, it's like our new song "Run From It," like that intro riff, like the like it's like that's like one of the more complicated parts, but it's literally just a pattern that like repeats. That's all
Yeah,
it is.
yeah.
Like it's just like it's a simple pattern. Well, I think it's a simple pattern, but like I mean, and the reason why I say it's a simple pattern is because I know guitar players who are far superior, like far superior to me, and I'm like,
You rate something that feels good on the fingers.
yeah, well, it's yeah, and it has to be easy for me to play live. Like, and we've talked about that before on the podcast. Is like the stuff that I want to be able to play. Like, you need to have those dynamic changes where like a lot of the stuff that we play, like when we go into choruses, is a lot of like chord based, and it's very simple. We want it to be kind of catchy, but then we also want to have like blast beats where stuff is fast. So we do like some kind of technical runs, I guess, if you really want to look at it. Like, yes, it is more technical than just playing the freaking G chord or something. You know what I mean? I don't know. Like, obviously, but like, yeah, I feel like, you know, I'm the type of person, at least when I play music, like I don't want to play just like I don't think I could be in like a technical death metal band. Like I don't think I could do it because I don't want to be just riffing the whole time. Like I want to be able to, you know, have some chord parts in it that are like very beautiful. I like having like in our music, I love having synth stuff. And this next record we're coming out with is gonna be it's probably gonna sound like Winds of Plague. I don't fucking know, but whatever. Like it's probably gonna be ridiculous. But like I like we try to have I want to have fun. Like I want to have fun. I want it to be fairly simplistic where I can play it live and I can move around and I can have a good time. But we also try to layer it so it sounds more complicated than it actually is, right? It's like
the secret you're spilling the secret
yeah,
sauce.
the secret sauce. Yeah, like well, I mean, I like, but if you really like, if you were in front of me or Kyle and watch us just watch one of us play the entire time, you're gonna be like, oh wow, that's really easy. Like I'm serious. I swear to God, like that's how we do it. And like we add a lot of synth stuff to double the guitar parts we do. We add a lot of like um the guy who produces our record, Evan Sammons. He's the drummer for Last Chance to Reason. Their main band. They were signed to Prosthetic Records like a while ago. He adds a lot of random weird stuff in the back, like just shotgun sounds, like random like keg hits, like just like random stuff, and we have that all play in the backing tracks and stuff that we play with. And so like I said, like it sounds like it's more complicated, but it's just I would rather be on stage just casually playing guitar, having a good time, and but on stage
as simply technical you can make it.
exactly. That's actually yes. That's exactly it. Like people watch us and they're like, oh wow, and like the best compliment that I get, and I love it when people come up and tell me this, is they go, and we used to get it a lot, not as much now, but we used to get it a whole lot. They're like, man, you guys sound just so big. Like just the sound that you guys project from stage, you just sound like really heavy. And that's what I like to hear. I don't care if we're tight. I mean, I do, but like like I want people to be like in front and they're like, wow, like it's a giant wall of sound that's hitting you and you can like just feel that. That's the kind of thing I want people to
as a 4-piece, yes. Like with the times that we've seen you guys, it still hasn't. I know the members of your band. I know that you're a 4-piece, but still, like until it was the episode with Ethan of being like, oh yeah, there is the bass player. Like it still sounds fun. It still is
we do not have a bass player, and we've never had a bass player, and we will never have a bass player. That's
fair. Yeah, I get
bass.
It,
bass is
it works for some. It works for like some style. I mean, like I assume, like I don't know what kind of tuning you guys are in, but like, do you do like split cab type thing at all?
Yeah.
Where
so
like where you drop. Like
so what we
drop one.
Yeah. So what we do is so we have bass on a backing track. So the bass just goes through the bass goes through front of house, and then so if we play in a venue where we can't send that, which we haven't yet, that would be bad. But so far, originally what I did before we started doing backing tracks, I actually sent my guitar signal into an ABY switch and ran that ABY switch, one to a guitar rig and one to a bass rig. So I played guitar and bass at the same time.
Yeah.
And so what I did was I was able to the bass rig, I turned the higher frequencies down. So all you really heard were like the lower two strings on my guitar through my bass rig. And then what we would do is we would take the volume of the bass rig and we would turn it down so that way, like, because when I'm playing like chug type chords, like the bass sounds like ass. Like it sounds horrible. Yeah. So to take that away, we would take all the high frequencies out of the amp head and then we would just turn the volume down. So because all I wanted people to feel was the frequencies in the room and in the corners of the room. That's all you need. That's, you know what I mean? So that was our little secret sauce for a while. People were like, why are there 3 cabs? And I'm like, oh, I'm playing bass. They're like, how are you playing bass? Do you have a guitar? I'm like, I don't know. I just am. Like, you know, so it worked
Don't
out. But
leave. Don't leave.
yeah,
Just watch us. You'll understand. Yeah.
yeah, exactly.
It's the secrets of death. Like, this is cool. Like,
Yeah, yeah. It's
simply, yeah.
well, it's like it's cool to have that, but at the same time, I do miss having like one more person on stage because I feel like, I don't know. I feel
Energy.
like people would take, I don't want to say people would take us more seriously, but I just feel like they'd be like, oh, okay, you have a bass player. So now like it all makes
Visually, they
sense.
would understand more.
Yeah, visually it would all make sense, but whatever. It
It
is
makes
what it is. It is what it is. Oh,
So
that's funny.
bringing it back to the final question, what does Halo Bite got going on in 2025?
Yeah, there's a couple tours that we have. When I say tours, I say it loosely. It's like we're not doing like, like weeks on end, but definitely a lot of like, it's kind of important to us to like constantly just be playing in the terms of just like keeping it fresh for us. And it's like just nice to get out of town and play, whether it's like, like we're just doing something that's like Massachusetts to, to Connecticut and another like a local show. It's like there's a couple things like in that realm. Yeah, we have like some shows that we haven't announced yet for February. We have like a small run we're working on for March. That'll probably be announced pretty soon. May, like I said, we're doing a pretty cool run with a band from Arizona. And then I'm pretty stoked on there and hitting some places that we definitely haven't played before. And then just like working on stuff for the rest of the year. But yeah, I would say that's pretty much it. We're trying to like, the idea is to, in terms of like growing as a unit, like Jeremy and I have been in bands before we started doing this, and it's like we're basically like 3 years into doing this band, and our other guitar player Angie, and our bass player Chandler, like they don't like come from a background of like having already been like seasoned by a lot of this stuff, and it's like cool to grow all together in those ways. And it's like just like the ins and outs of like, same thing where it's like we can only take so much time off, or you got to really commit to taking a leap of faith and like really giving your time to the art and the kind of commitments that you want to make. And like we're definitely going for that this year, which is really cool and also frightening in a lot of ways. But yeah, very busy like that. So I mean, I know we're trying to like double the amount of shows that we played last year, and also like work on writing a full length, which hopefully will be recorded at some point this year, or towards the end in 2026. But yeah, I mean, we're still kind of riding. We put an EP out in July of 2025 or 2024, called Winter Circle, which has been really freaking cool. It's like I'd never been in a band that was able to like we pressed it on vinyl and all that stuff, and it's like I'm a huge vinyl guy, and it was just like felt pretty surreal to be part of a project that I actually have like a physical media for. It's not just like a cassette. Like cassettes are freaking cool too. Like I love that. And but yeah, it just felt like such like a weird like capstone project to like put all the time and effort into like getting people to do the layout or like work with other artists and stuff like that. And or just like, yeah, I don't know, it's all just like one cool thing to be a part of it all. But yeah, I mean, just like playing a lot of shows and working on writing as like much new stuff as we possibly can is kind of in the future for us for 2025.
Yeah, I feel like that's something similar to kind of what we're trying to do a little bit. Playing shows I don't know if we'll be able to double what we're doing, but we definitely want to play some more shows out of state. I would love to press vinyl. Oh, I want to press vinyl so bad.
It's a good feeling. But yeah, like playing shows out of state is like so important to the growth of the band. Oh yeah, heck yeah, that's a nice little collection you got there.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I think like getting out of town, especially for all of us, I think we all collectively feel like that's just like such an important component to being like obviously in any band, and if you want to tour and, not without even like the conversation of like making like a living off of it, but just like it's cool to network and like meet people and go to these like random places and like holes in the wall spots that like we never really would play, but it's like it happened to be like we could book a spot in like wherever in South Carolina, and we're it's wild to think that it's like we're coming from New York, or like we're trying to work on getting down into Florida with a band that we also really like later on in December or October. And just like just like traversing all this network, and it's like for me it feels like I have a job where I travel quite frequently, and like I've been to basically like every corner of this continent, and just like everywhere in the US I feel like I've been, but it's like doing it with your friends instead of your coworkers, and it's like it's in a band and you're like doing something that you love. It just feels so completely different, and it's like such an enriching experience, and it's like we want to strangle each other sometimes, but it's like out of love, or just like being able to have like a really terrible conversation and come back from it in a really special way. And it's like, I don't know. It's like we say to ourselves too. We're like, do you think other bands talk to each other like the way that we do? Like we'll have these like powwows for like hours and just like vent about stuff or talk about like the terrible things that are going on in our lives, or like X, Y, and Z. And we're like, I don't know if they do, but I'm like, we're all happy that we do. And then it's like it keeps everything's like fresher. It's like important to know, like to mentally check in on everybody, and it's not all just about like like, oh, grind, oh, come to practice next week, learn all these songs, and if you don't, like, I'm going to be ferociously mad, where it's like, I can't say that I've never had that, because I'm very punctual and am always on everybody about being the best versions of themselves that they can, and it's like learning about myself and being in like a collective collaborative environment with other people. It's just like it's all baby steps, but it's like I think we're only a couple of years into it, and it's like I'm excited to see where it goes.
Yeah, I was gonna say that the talking about like, do other bands talk about stuff like that? It's really funny. I would say most probably don't, but I know that we have for sure. I mean, we've gone through. There's a lot of heavy.
There's lore
Yeah,
that shouldn't be shared even, and it's like you have like the hard conversations, and it's just like, man, like I don't know how we're gonna bounce back from this, but you always do, and it's like that's kind of the special part about it.
Yeah, I definitely think that if you can have the hard conversations with the people in your band, and people are willing to have those hard conversations with you, and not just push them off and go like, "That doesn't matter, like whatever, we'll be fine," or if you're able to have those hard, conversations, or bring up the hard questions, or do whatever you have to do, if you're able to do that, and everyone is willing to listen, or at least, give something a shot, then usually, as a band, like I would say, like you guys will last a long time, or our band will last a long time. Like we for sure should have already broken up. I can tell you that right now. Like I know that for a fact. Like we should not be a band right now.
But we're like a cockroach. You can't kill us.
No,
but it's like our vocalist Jay is like such an like sort of they have like such a way with words, like lyrically, but also just in general. And it's like I speaking for myself, is like I'm not always like the best communicator, because I in some aspects of how you were just saying, where I'm always like, oh, like this is a problem, like whatever, I'll go deal with it later. And like I also am like so afraid of confrontation a lot of times, and then like that stuff builds up in me. But it's like they can be like this like medium in the room that's just like will kind of like lay it all out, and then I'm like, okay, like yes, you're right, and then I could like sit with it, and then kind of come back to it at a certain point and be like, like like there definitely are things that they're saying that are like completely accurate, and it's like that is things that like I should work on, or like we need to work on, or like they need to work on, or just like things like that. And it's just like refreshing to sort of have that kind of dialogue within all of us, versus just being like, oh yeah, like practice it, like practice Tuesday, yeah, maybe I'll be there. It's like, no, you're gonna be there,
yeah, exactly. And it's nice to hear other bands also have, and I mean, sure, other bands most bands probably have issues, right? It's like having
Yeah, I'm
another.
sure every band does. Yeah, you're crammed in a van with these people for like 8 hours a day, and then you're sharing a bed with them, or like we're sleeping on the floor
Yeah.
together somewhere, in a hotel, or like on somebody's floor, and their dog is licking my toes, and I'm like, well, this is just a weird thing that's happening to all of us, but like we're together, and it's like fun, isn't it? And it's like, oh, it's all going to be over, but then it is over, and you're like, oh, well, actually, I think I kind of liked all of that, and that was fun. I would rather be back there than like working my 9 to 5.
Yeah,
You have to be with people that are willing to put in like the effort and go through all of that with you. Like,
yeah.
Some of my friends, their tour just ended yesterday. Of their 8 days, 3 days got canceled. Just weather and like things not happening, and it's like thinking about those scenarios. Or there's another tour happening with Bonginator where their Los Angeles dates obviously got canceled. Like who you're with during those time periods, like this fight or flight situations, like that's
or like the van breaks down, you're stranded somewhere. It's like you go into like either you're all holding a knife to each other, being like, well, what the hell are we gonna do? Or you figure it out and like you progress and you move on. So it's like there's only so many like logistical things that you can control.
For sure. It's difficult, but very rewarding if you're all willing to put in the time and effort.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
Yeah, my laptop sometimes sounds like it's gonna take off, which is fine. But
I just figured it was like a car driving by your house again.
Nope.
It sounded like motorcycle-esque where it was gonna go.
Yeah. No, that is definitely the laptop.
I forgot. I unplugged it because I didn't want the fan to happen, but then it was about to die, and of course, when I go to plug it in, it's when it just happens. But
it's like, turn it
it's
on.
It's fine. It made it to the end. So that brings us to the end of the episode. This is the part where we list local shows happening. So on the day that this releases, Halo Bite has a show, as we said earlier, in Troy, New York, with Billy, Death Defier, and Take Steps. Ed, what show do you got?
Yeah, so excuse me. This Saturday, Death's Hand is playing Anthony, the lead singer from Rose Lane. It's his birthday show at Bad Burger. It's Death's Hand, Erase Me, Bearing Point, and Rose Lane. That's doors at 8 p.m., show at 9. And it's 18 plus with a valid ID. And I think there's a pretty good deal going on for tickets with that too. I feel like that's still going on. So there's a super good deal. So if you want to grab a ticket, do it now.
Pretty good deal. Buy one, get one.
Yeah. Buy one, get one.
And then on Saturday, there's an earlier show at the Uxbridge VFW. Doors are 4 p.m. Music's 5:30 with Cleanse, Fat Cap, Farewell, Sarah 3-0, I'm Sorry, Tar, 40 Lashes, Greylock, and Brace for Impact. So plenty of shows.
Too many bands, too many names.
Exactly.
It all gets jumbled up. Like I'm thinking back to myself right now, like about previous questions, and we were talking about favorite local bands, and I was like, I totally left one out. I was like, there's a band, Spirit Killer, that are like some of the nicest people that like you could ever meet in like the most prolific ways possible. Like
that's hilarious.
Their guitar player Tom, I think you pronounce his last name like Schlatter. Could be wrong. I'm sorry, Tom. But like he plays guitar in that band Seisha, Hundreds at AU, used to be in this band called The Assistant, You and I, like a freaking genius. And it's like crazy for me again, like to be like in places where it's like he comes to our shows and I'm just like, holy crap, like I love all of this dude's records. And like he also plays in a band locally and I get to do that with like somebody of that nature. But yeah, what wild. Yeah,
that's why we love that question, because it usually will either stump people or people will forget because there's so many,
or
like
up and then go eat my dinner and then be like,
and you're like, God,
this person.
That's I love it. That's like,
but I'm glad I remember that one because those guys are like so special to me.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's literally become like I think our favorite question, like because it's like it's such a like just typical like it's like a typical question, but like it's just cool because it goes in different ways almost every single time. So it's great. We love it.
Thank you.
Awesome. Well, yeah, cool. That's going to be the end of the episode. Russell, thank you so much. It was a absolutely fantastic time talking with you.
Thank you. Thank you,
really,
guys.
really cool. Had an absolute blast. Hopefully your show goes well on Thursday. I'm sure it will. I know we're gonna have a great time on Saturday, and I know Maddie's in Cleansed, right? So she's got a show too, right? So that's awesome. Yeah, that's cool. Awesome. Yes, there's a lot of fun stuff coming up in this.
Yeah, which it's not. We can talk about it. It's not said. I'm waiting for one more band, but Halo Bite will be coming to Bad Burger, and Cleansed is the opener on that show. So Maddie,
Nice.
I get to have Maddie on a show.
That's
phenomenal photographer.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Cool. Well, yeah. Thanks again, Russell. Appreciate it. Definitely a great time. Hopefully, we can jump on a show with you at some point. That would be fantastic. That would be fantastic. Yeah, definitely. That'd be a blast. But yeah, thanks everybody for coming and watching this episode. It's been an absolute blast. Super fun time. Definitely check us out on the next episode. And if you can make it out to any of these shows Thursday or Saturday, or what is the other one? Saturday too? Sunday. Yeah, absolutely make it. So again, thanks again, guys. Thanks for listening and watching, and we'll catch you guys on the next episode. So see you, everybody.
Have a good
Cool.
night.
Thanks, guys.
And restoration